Extra, extra, we're back with another entry. Today's topic is going to be very informative, and that's how I like to do over here at Jonda's Journal. Roll up my sleeves, create a little fun and humor, but overall be very informative. So today's topic is going to be about a people's plight and the source of nuclear weapons. The black people in North America have a plight. This is true, but we can't get so caught up that we forget about the Aboriginals of Australia. Yes, sir. The black man, woman, and child down under suffer their own plights. Alcoholism, being separated from their children, and loss of culture. Yes, they go through the same thing that the black man, woman, and child in North America go through. So it's only right that us over at Jonda's Journal roll up our sleeves and introduce a piece of the Aboriginals of Australia's plight to social media and spread awareness. I came across their plight late, but being informed is better late than never. Let's get into the article. Uranium mines harm indigenous people, so why have we approved a new one? Last week, the federal government approved the Rac3 uranium mine in Western Australia in the face of vigorous protests from traditional owners. This Canadian-owned uranium mine is the newest installment in Australia's long tradition of ignoring the dignity and welfare of Aboriginal communities in the pursuit of nuclear fuel. For decades, Australia's desert regions have experienced uranium prospecting, mining, waste dumping, and nuclear weapons testing. Settler colonial perceptions that these lands were so-called uninhabited led to widespread environmental degradation at the hands of the nuclear industry. One small step for the white man, one giant leap for the white race. Let's go down under and ignore their dignity and welfare as we plant and establish a uranium mine. It's our turn. Our race has always done it. We're just gonna repeat the process and carry on the legacy. Let's go. As early as 1906, South Australia's Radium Hill was mined for radium. Amateur prospectors mined haphazardly, damaging Gajuri and Wiliakali lands, and an estimated 100,000 tons of toxic mine called tailings remain at Radium Hill with the potential to leach radioactive material into the environment. Uranium mines across Australia have similar legacies, with decades of activism from the Morar people against the Ranger and Jubaluka mine sites in Kakadu National Park. Sir, the Aboriginals are protesting again. So, it doesn't matter to us. We deal with black people protesting in North America all the time. Just stick to your plan. Carry out your orders. Get out of my face. In the 36 years since it began operating, the Ranger mine has produced over 125,000 tons of uranium and experienced more than 200 accidents. In 2013, a reported 1 million liters of contaminated material leaked from a Ranger tank. The spill was contained to the site. Aboriginal communities remain at a disproportionate risk because large uranium deposits exist in lands deemed sacred and significant, while the testing and dumping of nuclear material is rarely undertaken in areas inhabited by settlers. The federal government's ambivalence toward these impacts has most recently culminated in their decision to give Cameco the go-ahead for the Rac3 uranium mine, a blow to the traditional owners of Jawara country. All of these samples show that these leaks could be very hazardous to the indigenous Aboriginals of Australia. So, what do we care? None of these experiments are going on in our settlements. Just keep it regulated to their areas. Native title fails to protect traditional owners from the mining industry. The Jawara people have fought the Rac3 mine alongside the Conservation Council of WA for more than 2 years. They now must grapple with the government's decision to ignore their resistance. But the Jawara people are not alone. Aboriginal communities across Australia continue to engage with and mobilize against government decisions to ignore native title claimants. As set out in Australia law, native title is the recognition of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders peoples' rights to the land and waters, guided by traditional law and customs. Yeah, That's right, colonizer. We have rights, and we know them. You may ignore us, you may disregard them, but we know our rights. Aboriginal communities have an opportunity to object to a mining application 35 days before the outcome of the application is determined. A complex appeals process follows. But even in the face of significant complaints, mining applications are more often than not approved. This has led to people mobilizing internationally. And in 2017, the International Campaign to Abolish Nuclear Weapons, ICAN, negotiated with the United Nations to create a treaty banning nuclear weapons. The treaty, adopted on July 7, 2017, recognized the disproportionate impact nuclear material has on indigenous communities around the world. It includes the mining and milling of uranium. We know our rights. Let's stand up and fight these colonizers. Let's put a ban to nuclear weapons, and let's tell them how this disproportionately affects the indigenous communities of Australia. The treaty warns that parties should be mindful of the unacceptable suffering of and harm caused to the victims of the use of nuclear weapons, hibakusha, as well as of those affected by the testing of nuclear weapons, and recognize the disproportionate impact of nuclear weapon activities on indigenous peoples. I wonder what type of monster we're dealing with. Do these people know that there are children in these communities? Do these people know that their testing has a negative impact on our children? I wonder if they even care. Nuclear weapons sourced from Aboriginal lands. The toxic legacy of uranium mining is not isolated to the contamination of ecosystems. Radium Hill provided uranium for weapons for the United Kingdom and United States, including the nuclear weapons tested at Maralinga and Emu Field in the 1950s and 1960s. These weapons spread radioactive contamination and dispossessed Aboriginal communities in and around the APY lands. The black people of North America and the indigenous Aboriginal black people of Australia are waking up. What are they waking up to? To the fact that they've always fought the white man's war, and in more ways than one. In the 60s in Vietnam, and now in Australia, their lands have funded and are the source of nuclear weapons. Uranium from the Ranger mine in Northern Territory found its way into the Fukushima reactor, a reality that plagues the Morar people. In 2011, traditional owner Yvonne Margarula expressed her sorrow for those affected by the Fukushima meltdown. It is likely that the radiation problems at Fukushima are, at least in part, fueled by uranium derived from our traditional lands. This makes us feel very sad. These legacies are felt acutely by those who continue to struggle with the lack of protection from native title and other government policies apparently designed to prevent the exploitation of Aboriginal communities by various industries. You can only imagine the pain we feel, mate. The government exploits us and runs over laws that we have in place to prevent us from being exploited. Then he uses our minerals and our resources to harm other cultures around the world. You have no idea how we feel. In the 1970s, when the Ranger mine opened, the Morar people felt largely powerless in negotiations between mining companies and the federal government. Last week, the Jural experienced similar disempowerment. Yet both communities are recognized by the government as traditional owners. Unsurprisingly, Australia is yet to sign the treaty on the prohibition of nuclear weapons, continuing the persistently toxic legacy of Australia's nuclear industry. Like I said, it's an old article, but even an old article could give us insight when it comes to black and white relations down under. So this is the part of the entry where we part ways. Leave me a comment because I value you guys' opinion. What do you think about the black man, woman, and child's plight down under? Do you think that they're being ran over by the government? What do you think about their native title? Does it protect them from being exploited? Apparently it doesn't, because their minerals are just stolen from them. It harms the communities of the Aboriginal people, and it harms other cultures across the world. But let me know what you think. Are you on the side of the government or the black man, woman, and child down under? Talk to me. I talk back. If you like today's topic and you learned something new, hit the like button. If you want others to know about black and white relations down under in Australia, hit the share button. I don't mind. If you haven't already, subscribe. It's a call to action. Until next time, peace.